The scent of sizzling tortillas and fresh brewed coffee filled the early morning air as Emily adjusted her sunflower apron inside her small, brightly painted food truck, Sunrise Bites. For 3 years, this food truck had been her lifeline, her only way of paying rent and supporting her younger brother after their parents passed away. Each morning, she woke before dawn, her hands raw from chopping vegetables and mixing dough, yet her smile never faded when customers arrived. She had grown used to the rhythm, the long lines of office workers, students, and strangers who grabbed breakfast burritos and hurried away. To most people, she was invisible, just the food truck girl. But Emily carried herself with quiet dignity, believing that small kindnesses, like slipping an extra pastry to a tired mother or adding an encouraging word to a student, mattered more than money. She never imagined her path would cross with someone from her past, someone who had once been a boy standing at the same food truck window, staring at her with admiration. As she glanced at the growing line, her tired eyes skimmed over the crowd. That morning, one man stood out. His sharp suit, polished shoes, and confident stance didn't belong in a food truck line. Yet something in his eyes, soft, searching, familiar, made her pause. She quickly dismissed the thought, focusing on the next order. But fate, it seemed, had other plans for her that day. The line moved steadily, and Emily's hands worked on autopilot, cracking eggs, flipping tortillas, sliding burritos across the counter with a practiced grace. When the man in the suit finally stepped forward, she greeted him with her usual warmth, though her smile wavered under his steady gaze. "What can I get you today?" she asked, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His voice was low, smooth, carrying a weight of memory as he ordered a simple breakfast burrito and black coffee. There was something unsettling about the way he studied her face, as if each feature unlocked a piece of a forgotten past. Emily brushed it off, busying herself with wrapping his food. But then, as she handed him the steaming burrito, he leaned just slightly closer, whispering words that made her freeze mid-motion. "Still remember me?" The world seemed to stop, the bustling street noise fading into silence. Emily's brow furrowed, her heart skipping a beat. She searched his face again, really looked this time, and the memory hit her like a wave. The lanky boy from her high school, who used to sit quietly at the back of class, often teased for his worn-out clothes. The one she once defended when no one else cared. "Daniel?" she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. He gave a soft smile, a mixture of pride and gratitude shining through. Emily's hands shook as she realized the truth. The boy she once helped in his darkest days was now standing before her, not just changed, but transformed into a man who clearly carried success on his shoulders. Emily's mind raced as she tried to bridge the gap between the shy boy she remembered and the confident man standing before her now. Back then, Daniel was the quiet one who often skipped lunch, pretending he wasn't hungry, until she started sharing half her sandwiches with him. She remembered how his eyes used to light up at the smallest gestures of kindness, though he never had much to give in return. And now, this Daniel, was dressed in a suit that probably cost more than her entire month's earnings. You look so different," Emily finally stammered, her voice caught between awe and confusion. Daniel chuckled softly, though there was a gentleness in his tone. "Life has a way of changing people. But some things, some people, you never forget." Customers in line shuffled impatiently, but Emily barely noticed. Her chest tightened as fragments of the past replayed in her mind, late afternoons tutoring him for exams, encouraging him when he doubted himself, telling him he mattered when the world told him otherwise. She had done it all because it was right, never expecting anything in return. Yet here he was, proof that her small kindness had not only been remembered but cherished. Still, embarrassment flushed her cheeks as she glanced at her worn apron and chipped nails. She was just the food truck girl now, scraping by, while he had clearly soared into a different world. "Why are you here, Daniel?" she asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. He looked around at the truck painted in warm yellows and oranges, then back at her with eyes that held something more than nostalgia, something deeper, something she hadn't expected to find. Daniel held his coffee cup but didn't drink, his gaze fixed on Emily as though the crowded street had vanished and only the two of them remained. "I came back because of you," he said simply, his words sinking into her like a stone dropped into still water. Emily blinked, unsure she heard him right. "Me?" she asked, her voice nearly a whisper. He nodded, his expression softening. "Back then, you didn't just share your lunch. You shared hope. You told me I wasn't worthless when everyone else made me believe I was. I carried those words with me when I left this town. They became fuel, Emily. They kept me pushing forward when the world told me to give up." Emily's throat tightened, emotion threatening to spill over. She had never thought much about those moments. To her, they were just small acts of kindness, things anyone would have done. But to Daniel, they had been lifelines. "I promised myself," he continued, his voice steady, "that if I ever made it, I'd come back. Not to prove anything, but to thank the person who believed in me when no one else did." Emily swallowed hard, tears pricking her eyes as she tried to steady her hands. The customers in line grew restless, but a hush seemed to wrap around the truck. For once, Emily didn't feel like the invisible, food truck girl. She felt seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. Yet beneath the gratitude in Daniel's words, there was something unspoken, a question lingering in the air, as if this encounter wasn't only about the past but about a future he dared to imagine. Emily wiped her hands on her apron, unsure if she was trembling from the cool breeze or from Daniel's words. He placed the burrito gently on the counter, untouched, and leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Emily, I'm not here just to thank you. I'm here because I see how hard you're working, carrying everything on your shoulders, and I can't walk away knowing I might help." Her breath caught, but before she could protest, Daniel reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope. He slid it across the counter, his eyes steady on hers. "Consider this an investment, in you, in this food truck, in your dreams. Not charity. A partnership." Emily stared at the envelope as though it were burning through the counter. She shook her head, panic rising. "Daniel, I can't. I can't take this. I didn't help you so you'd owe me anything." His smile was gentle, patient, the same smile she remembered from their school days, only steadier now. "I don't owe you, Emily. I choose to do this because you once chose to see me when no one else did. Don't rob me of the chance to pass that kindness back." Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the food truck's fryer. Emily's eyes blurred with tears, her heart torn between pride and the aching weight of her struggles. In that moment, she realized this wasn't just about money. It was about healing, about receiving the same grace she had once given. And as Daniel's hand lingered on the counter, waiting for her answer, she understood that this was the turning point she had never seen coming. Emily's chest rose and fell as if the world itself had paused to hear her answer. Slowly, she placed her flour-dusted hand over the envelope but didn't pull it toward her just yet. Instead, she looked at Daniel, the boy who had once been invisible, now standing tall as a man who had returned not with pride, but with gratitude. Her lips trembled into a smile. "You really remembered," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Daniel's eyes softened, his voice steady as he replied, "How could I forget the person who reminded me I mattered?" The words unlocked something deep inside her, a place where exhaustion had long buried hope. With a shaky breath, Emily finally accepted the envelope, not as a rescue, but as a bridge, a chance to dream again. Around them, the city carried on, people hurrying past without knowing they were witnessing a moment that carried years of history, pain, and redemption. Emily wiped her tears, then laughed softly, a sound Daniel hadn't heard in over a decade. "Maybe this little food truck has more to give than I thought," she said. Daniel chuckled, raising his cup of coffee like a toast. "With you behind it?" "Absolutely." For the first time in years, Emily felt lighter, as though the weight she carried wasn't hers alone anymore. What began as a simple exchange of food and words had turned into something extraordinary, a reminder that kindness, no matter how small, can echo through time and return in ways we least expect. And in that golden morning light, two souls who once shared sandwiches in silence now shared something far greater, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.